Good afternoon and welcome to TalkSports, another edition of our weekend program where we bring you the stories, personalities, and ideas that continue to shape sport in Grenada, the Caribbean, and beyond. Well, today we shine the spotlight on one of Grenada's most decorated and recognizable, we'll say, sporting ambassadors, right? Whether competing on the road or the track, Red Walters proudly carries Grenada's colors wherever he races. His bicycle adorned in the red, the gold, and the green of our national flag has become a symbol of his commitment to representing his country on the international stage. Well, from races across Europe and Asia to some of the world's most demanding cycling competitions, Red continues to demonstrate that Grenadians can compete with the very best. But his vision extends beyond personal success. He is equally passionate about reviving cycling in Grenada and inspiring what is probably a new generation of cyclists throughout the Caribbean. Well, today we will discuss his journey, the sacrifices required to compete professionally, his ambitions of representing Grenada at this year's Commonwealth Games. It's sometime in, I think it's in August. That will be in Glasgow, Scotland. And the 2028 Olympic Games in Los Angeles that everyone are really looking forward to. And his plans to help take Caribbean cycling to another level. Red Walters, welcome to TalkSports. It is a pleasure having you with us.
Hello, thank you. Firstly, thank you for your kind words. That means a lot, and I appreciate that. I'm happy to be here, happy to be on, and looking forward to getting to a good chat.
Yeah, and I must say, and probably apologize, folks, that we have been trying to get Red for quite a while, but he's just squeezing us into what is normally a busy schedule, right?
I've got time this evening.
You're right. He has time this evening. But first of all, Red, for viewers who may be meeting you or seeing you for the first time, tell us something about Red and how cycling, how your cycling journey began.
Like you said, I'm a professional cyclist. That's everything I'm focused on at the moment. But to go back to the start, it all started when I was 17, just close to turning 18. I wanted an outlet, like a competitive outlet, some kind of passion, a sport, but I didn't know what I wanted at the time. I was still a kid, really. But cycling, for whatever reason, maybe I saw something on TV or I saw something, but that it looked like something I wanted to try. But I didn't have a bike yet, a proper road bike. So I made a deal with my dad, and I had to get a certain number of A's in my exams, and I got the exact number I needed, and he bought me that first road bike, and I've been racing since then.
Yeah, well, we have to thank Dad for that, because at least Dad said, he set you some parameters, he set you some goals, and you achieved that. Was there a particular person or moment that inspired you to pursue cycling professionally?
This is the thing that's, I think, strange for me, is that there was never one moment where I decided I want to be professional. I started the sport as a hobby, I guess you could say. I just enjoyed racing. I loved it more and more. Every week, every month that went past, I just enjoyed it. I guess the one turning point, if I could name one, which is quite random. I was meant to go to college. I had everything was all set, and I was ready to go in 3 weeks. And I knew a friend of mine who was taking a gap year before he went. And I wasn't planning to, but he'd mentioned it to me a couple of times. And at one point, I just thought, you know what? Let's do this gap year, take cycling seriously for 1 year, and see how it goes. And then, from there, it's just snowballed. And I'm able to do it full time now.
Right. I assume That is always interesting. Yeah, but looking back, did you ever imagine that cycling will take you around the world? I mean, normally other sport like track and field and these sort of things competed, but cycling itself.
I mean, from being a kid, no, I never would have thought. I never even thought of cycling as a sport. For the longest time, that was just the way I got to school, and that was it. And even when I started cycling, you couldn't imagine that you would end up getting to see all these places and traveling. I mean, right now I'm in Switzerland. I've been riding in the mountains this morning, and it's just, yeah, it's incredible. And I constantly remind myself just to be grateful for the opportunities and enjoy everything while it's there, because it's easy to be so focused, but I think it's important to enjoy the moments as they come.
Yeah, and for clarity as well, you actually in Switzerland as we speak, right?
Yes, yeah, I'm here on a training camp for 3 weeks, or the final 3 weeks before the Commonwealth Games.
Wow, so we'll hear more about that. But wherever you compete, Red, your bicycle proudly carries Grenada's national colors. Why was that important to you?
I think so. Firstly, most of the races at this level, the majority of them are in Europe. And the average person from Europe doesn't actually know about Grenada. I mean, most people, even when they see the flag, they don't know. They say, "Where's that? Where are you from?" So for me, it's not just the pride to represent the nation, but also like to show people not only like where Grenada is, but show people that Grenada exists, and put it on the map, kind of thing.
Yeah, because I recall there was a championship that was going on, and it was Pan Am. You are Pan Am
Yes.
silver medalist. You are Pan Am silver medalist, right? Yeah, and
Yes.
the commentator was like, "Oh, Red Waters certainly will not be missed because the colors of Grenada." I think you were the only one with a cycle that actually was adorned with the colors of the national flag. So it was easy to distinguish Red Waters on the track, and I
Yes.
think that was inspiring. Well, many people now refer to you as Grenada's cycling ambassador. Well, quote unquote. What does that mean to you? Because you're the only cyclist from Grenada and probably one of the few from the Caribbean that actually on the international circuit. So what does that mean to you, cycling, representing Grenada and sometimes the Caribbean, whether it's in Europe, whether in Asia?
Yeah, I mean, I think again with cycling, like it's a very European dominated sport. So if you're a kid and you're cycling and you want to have the dreams to get to whatever level, it can be harder when you're only seeing the European guys do it. So for me to be one of the few Caribbean cyclists and the only Grenadian at this level, it's like showing that you can do it. And for any kids who are trying to progress to that level, it's like, it's not just for XYZ, it's for us too.
Yeah. And for those who are wondering as well, let's get a little background heritage of Red Waters, your connection to Grenada. You are basically, UK based, but you have your connections in Grenada.
Yeah. A lot of people ask. Obviously, I'm mixed. My dad is from England. My mum is from Grenada. She's actually a Felix, so we have a lot of family from Birchgrove. So I'm sure some of the guys watching will have family in Birchgrove and be Felixes as well. It's just a coincidence actually that my dad's name is Walters, because that's also there's a lot of Walters in Grenada, which is just
Yeah.
funny coincidence.
Yeah, because I know sometimes we refer to it as Red Felix, and
Yeah.
so the Felix is the Grenadian connection, the Grenadian name, right? That's the
Exactly.
right. Thing. What emotions do you experience every time you compete wearing Grenada's colors?
I mean, number one, of course, pride. The fact that I can represent the country and, like you say, be the ambassador for it in a sport when where there's, almost no one from not just Grenada, but the Caribbean. It's a huge amount of pride. And I mean, I also feel then inspired so sometimes I'll see people in the crowd, for example, with the Grenadian flag, and that just like hammers it home to show that, it kind of is making a difference. There are people there who, see what I'm doing and helping to represent Grenada and show, put Grenada on the map more.
All right. Let me get some quick comments here. Valentina Nuss from Venezuela. Good afternoon to you. And Gordon Julian, greetings, sporting family, and welcome to Talk Sports. Mr. Red Walters, it's a pleasure having you with us today. That's obviously.
Thank you, Gordon.
Yeah, and that's members from the class as well. Someone says, we miss you at Nationals today, Red. Good luck for the Commonwealth Games.
Yes, there was actually national champs today in Grenada, today and tomorrow. This is the first year in the last 5 years I haven't been. So I'm looking forward to seeing how the guys do. And I wish them luck for tomorrow as well.
Okay, that's good. That's good. And I guess as much, a lot of interest in cycling now, because we have seen, good performances from the cyclists at the OECS championship in Antigua a few weekends ago. Talk about it. How did you enjoy participating among locals and regional competitors?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, I was super proud of the boys. I feel like we came with like a proper team of, I think, 6 guys in the end, and we had a fairly good plan, and we stuck to the plan. We won in every category, I think, the elites, the juniors, and the under 16s. So yeah, just a huge shout out to the guys because they rode really well. It was really, OECS was really cool because, for the last 5, 6, 7 years, I've heard about OECS, and I've learned how like important it is between the OECS countries, but there hasn't been an OECS championships for a really long while actually. So to have the first one back and then to perform well in that competition, really happy to pull off the wins, and proud again, like just to get that podium picture with all of us with the medals and stuff. It meant a lot.
You're constantly traveling throughout Europe and Asia, and as we said, right now you're basically trading base in Switzerland, right? What does a typical racing season, look like for you, Red?
So it's changed actually a little bit from the last couple of years. So for those who don't know, track cycling as a focus is fairly new to me. My main focus was road cycling until maybe midway through last year, where I decided the best chance to go to the Olympics was through track cycling. And that's, a huge dream and a huge goal. So I've decided basically to go all in for track cycling. So whereas before I would be doing just a lot of racing throughout the year, and I wouldn't get much rest, not much time to train back into fitness after all the racing. But now it's a different sort of format. So the first part of the year is quite busy with racing. There's the Pan Am Champs and then the World Cup. So there's 3 World Cup rounds, and they're all in sort of March and April time. So that's a heavy block of racing. And then there'll be a slight gap again to train, which is really important just to bring the level back up, because you do lose some fitness when you race a lot. And then this year in summer, we have Commonwealth Games. Next year is Pan American Games. And then another gap before World Champs at the end of the season. So it's gone from racing all year round to racing in 3 phases throughout the year.
Mm-hmm. And what are some of the biggest differences between racing in Europe and competing in the Caribbean?
I think probably the biggest difference is the depth in the field. For example, Caribbean Champs, there's some really strong guys, but there might be 4 or 5 guys who are fighting for the win. In Europe, it's like the top 50 guys could all, maybe even the top 100 guys could all pull something off. So it's just the number of people with that level is just greater. and that it's probably because there's just more races, so there's more chances for people to learn and improve. And I think that's what is holding the Caribbean scene back a little bit, just because the races. I think it's just hard to travel between the islands compared to in Europe when it's all clustered together. So that's probably why there's less races and less competition.
Which race or performance are you most proud of so far since you have turned into pro and you have been riding? Is there a race or some performance that you want to talk about?
That's a tricky one. Pan American champs, the silver you mentioned, that was super special. Um, and I remember going up to Troy. Troy is the president of the Cycling Federation,
That's
so
Troy
he was in the
Phoenix.
car for the race.
Yeah.
Yes, Troy Phoenix. He was in the car for the race, so obviously he can't see what's happening at the front of the race. So then when he eventually crossed the line and I told him that I got the silver, that was really cool. And then of course the podium, and they have the flags. That's amazing. Another one, which is tied between these two, between that one and a stage in Tour of Bulgaria. This was a few years ago now, but it was a really hot stage in a sprint finish, and my team did some great work for me. So that one will always sit fondly in my memory.
Mhm. Let's talk a bit about cycling, because you said you gravitated more to the track cycling now, right? Um,
Mm.
is road cycling a dangerous sport? You would say it's a danger. Well, I mean, cycling is cycling, but you would say it's dangerous.
As far as sports go, yeah, I think it's probably one of the more dangerous sports. With whether it's twisty descents or just traffic on the roads, there's always some element of risk. We do what we can to try and mitigate as much risk as possible, but at the end of the day, there's always an element of risk. Yeah.
Mhm. You were off the track for a while, a few weeks in particular, some time ago. I think it had to do with some injury or so. Was it in relation to road cycling again?
Yes. Yeah. So I had a crash at the end of 2024. Actually, it was a track day. It was in France, actually, just after a race. It was a recovery day, so an easy ride of all things to happen. And it was just a tractor driving on the wrong side of the road, and ended up knocking me into the ground. And yeah, my jaw. I ended up coming like onto my jaw like this, and it broke into about 12 pieces. So I had to get a couple of surgeries done on that, and I was out for a long time. A couple of months in the end.
And and people will say even after such an injury, such a scare, you're still back on the road. Eh? You went back on the road.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, it was never a question. It was just a question of time. From the day I crashed, I knew, okay, this is a bad one. This is going to take a while, but we built a plan with the coach, and eventually I got back to being better than ever. Um, I always say with those kinds of things, it's just patience. It's just really just training that patience, because that's what's really getting tested.
So outside of that accident and that dear devil, we call it, what has been
Yes.
the toughest challenge you have faced as a professional cyclist?
Um, that's definitely been one of the toughest, but I think the toughest challenge is more overall. It's not one thing. I mean, I've been cycling just over 10 years now, and I've been trying to be pro for, let's say, 7 or 8 of those years. And the toughest challenge is just to keep on going again and again and again and again when doors get closed, the results don't happen how you want, you don't get on the teams you want, or you don't get the funding you need. And it's just like there's so much. I mean, it's not just me, this is just sport in general, but there's adversity and there's barrier after barrier. And to keep going, that's the hardest part. But that's also the part that pays off when you keep going for so long. Like, for example, right now, I'm really happy. I feel like I'm in the best position I could possibly be in, um, to just climbing the ladder and getting to get into the Olympics. That's the main goal at the minute. But yeah, I just feel in the best position possible to keep progressing. Yeah.
Yeah, well, John Utley saying thanks. I guess as much he's hearing about your story, and probably thanks for being back. And then Hazel Buckles, she's saying, talk about resilience. We're proud of you, Red. And
Oh, thank you.
yeah, Hazel is one of our legendary female athlete, and she's also the chair of the Grenada Olympians Association, and hopefully someday soon, Red Walters will be a member of the Olympians because he's looking forward to competing at, yes, keeping his fingers crossed, LA 2028. You compete successfully both in both road and track cycling. Can you explain the differences for those who may be wondering, the differences in road and track?
Yeah, I mean, the more I think about it, the more it really is almost different sports. I mean, it's like, to compare to track and field, it's like running the marathon and then going back and running the 800 or the 400. Road is, you'll ride for 4 hours and it's not easy. It's going to be pretty hard. And then after 4 hours, you still have to do an extremely strong effort. Usually, I mean, there's lots of other stuff in between, but that's just an example of the endurance. Track, however, there's a few different events, but between 10 minutes to 40 minutes, and it's just so much more intense. The intensity is much higher, and of course, there's no hills on the track, so I can afford to be slightly heavier, slightly more muscular, and I don't need to have as much endurance. So I'm training less hours now, but more intensity.
Yeah. By the way, Hazel, and I'm probably just throwing out something for you, an idea for you. When you need someone to speak to your young athletes in the future, call upon Red Walters. I'm certain with his experience, especially competing around the world, he probably will bring a lot of insights into, personal development. I'm certainly enjoy speaking to Red Walters. Red, which discipline do you enjoy the most, and why? I mean, because you still somehow appears to have a sort of attraction, affiliation, affinity to road cycling, even though you're trying to make the transition to track, but somehow in your blood, there is the road.
Yeah. So firstly, you do need to be the best at track cycling. You do need to have a good road program. For example, a stage race in road racing, you could do between 4 days to 7 days at our level. And that kind of training you can't replicate on your own in training. So the fitness gains you get from doing a stage race, for example, they're actually really valuable even on the track. As for enjoyment, it's tricky. I do enjoy road racing, but I think the enjoyment I get from being in it to win it more often in track just makes it that much better. So I have to say I do enjoy track more, just because it suits me. I said for years that I was better at track than road, but I didn't commit to it. So now that I'm actually, all in on track, I'm enjoying it so much.
But how different is the preparation for each? I mean, I assume a lot of endurance.
Yeah, exactly. It really is just dialing down the endurance. So for track, like I said, instead of doing huge volume and 20 hours a week or more, I'll still do a couple of weeks like that. But as it gets closer to the games, I'll be doing maybe 10 hours a week, and just lots of really hard efforts.
Just to let you know that Hazel saying, yes, we would love to have Red. So right away, Red, we signing you up for
awesome
speaking engagements with our young,
honestly,
yeah, right.
It's one of the things I wish I had, like a mentor or one person from the start that I could pass on, that I could receive advice from. So if I can be that for anyone, even in some small capacity, I'm happy to share my advice, and share my knowledge, just so people don't have to learn it the hard way. So anything I can tell to help is great.
Okay. Here's a question. John Atley saying, do you get cramps? I mean, he wants to know if you get cramps.
I'm actually pretty lucky. I almost never cramp. Don't get me wrong, my legs will blow up. They'll stop working, but cramps don't usually happen for me.
Your sights are now set on the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow and the LA 2028. That's me talking about the Olympic Games. How realistic are those goals, Red?
So Commonwealth Games, we'll do that one first. My goals, I hate to put it out into the world. I have the goals in my head, which may be crazy to some people, which I might not tell people. And then there's the goals I'll say, oh yeah, let's say I'd like to do a top 10. But in my head for Commonwealth Games, I'm thinking I would love to get a medal. That would be the coolest thing in the world to me. So that's my focus. That's what's motivating me for now. Olympics, on the other hand, is a different. Obviously, that's a different level. First of all, the main challenge is just qualifying for the Olympics.
Right.
I have to do 2 years basically of.
No, I was saying,
sorry, go on.
I was asking, what will it take to qualify?
Say again.
What will it take to qualify? You were talking about the Olympic Games. What will it take to qualify for the Olympic Games?
Oh, yes. So that's the hard part, because it's just me competing for Grenada in the leading events. There's 10 events across 2 years, and basically I
think we may have just lost Red. Walter's there. Certainly he's get his connection back up, and we'll get him there. Oh, right. I think yes. So let's see. We do have Red back now. Yeah, Red. So you were talking about what will it take to qualify and how much preparation is required over the next 2 years for the LA 2028 Olympic Games.
Yes, so essentially there's 10 events across 2 years. It's the Pan Am Champs, the World Cups, and then the World Champs. So basically, I have to do all of those, and I have to perform well in all of those, and I can't miss any of them. So if I get injured, if I get sick, that could basically, if it was at the wrong time, that could ruin the whole qualification. So I think the main thing with me is just consistency, just making sure I'm finishing. So it's the top 19 that qualify. So if I'm finishing, top 15s, a couple top 10s, obviously I would like to do better than that in things like Pan American Champs and World Cups. But overall, for the qualification, it's just about consistency.
There's another question here for you. What's your nutrition like? Talking about nutrition, I mean, as a cyclist and especially a professional cyclist, certainly nutrition is important for our sportsmen and sportswomen, whether you're an athlete, track and field athlete, a boxer, a basketballer, footballer. For a cyclist, what the nutrition is like?
Yeah, I mean, we could talk for a whole hour just about nutrition. The number one thing is carbohydrate. While I'm riding, I need to eat a huge amount. Like, if you imagine, and this is literally something I do, by the way, when I don't have my normal products. If you imagine table sugar that you might bake a cake with, I'll put that in a bottle like this, and I'll put 100 grams. Now, I challenge anyone at home, you'll pour on the scales, and you'll get to 20 grams and think that's enough, and you just keep going, and it gets filled like this of just sugar. And then I mix it, and then I'll have one of these in an hour or an hour and a half. So the point is the sugar and the carbohydrate is the fuel. And even after riding, pasta, rice, it's really important just to fuel up, and that's because that is the fuel. It's like an engine. You need the petrol.
Beyond your own professional career, you have spoken about a sort of reviving cycling in Grenada. You work along with folks in the Cycling Federation. You represented. I mean, you're a professional cyclist. You took the opportunity to ride along with the local cyclists at the OECS championships, at least, to instill confidence and things not all the time we'll see our professional, sportsmen and sportswomen doing something like that, but you decided to do that. What does that vision for cycling look like in terms of getting cycling back as a very a spectator sport in Grenada, for one, and knowing the limitations that we have because we do not have a velodrome, we don't have a track, it's basically road cycling. What's your vision like for cycling in Grenada?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, I just want to give credit to, because obviously, I'm not in Grenada that much. I try and come once a year for national champs, but it's hard to fit in the season. So credit to Troy Felix, like I mentioned earlier, and Kevin. They're organising most of the races, and Sheldon. I think they're all putting on the races. So, because at the end of the day, without races, there's nothing. So, those are the guys who are actually keeping the scene alive. It's hard, in my, let's say in a dream world where everything's possible, then it would be awesome to have like a dedicated cycling track, not a velodrome, but like a circuit. And you can have, like, a lot of countries, they'll have a combination cycling and running circuit. So then it's dual usability. It helps for both sports. That would be the dream, because then cyclists can train without risking traffic. And then you can have races there and that kind of thing. And then obviously from that, sorry, go on.
Well, what are the, I understand you spend most of your time outside of Grenada, competing in Europe, all over, even as we say now, you're not at the Nationals this weekend because you are actually at a camp, elite camp, training camp in Switzerland, and probably next weekend you might be back on the circuit again, cycling, as it goes, right? But what are the biggest challenges you will say facing cycling in Grenada today? What are some of the challenges you will see?
Cycling, would you say cycling in terms of people, like the guys trying to race and get to the next level, or for more generally, like the community?
Generally, because whatever angle, whether it's administration or whatever, it affects the growth and development of cycling. Whether it's funding, it affects the growth and development. So, what are some of the challenges facing cycling in Grenada today?
Yeah, I think number one is probably safety. I remember, Troy specifically telling me that he's spoken to a few parents, and the parents of these kids who might look into getting into cycling at the grassroots level, they're just terrified that their kids are riding on the roads with, because a lot of the riding we do would be on Maurice Bishop Highway, because that's like the best road condition. But it's also, after 7 a.m., any later than that, and the traffic starts getting a bit worse. So from, I think, a safety point of view, that's where a bit of the concern comes from parents and kids. I guess that, I think that's the number one thing. It's difficult. I'm sure there's other factors too.
Yeah, but what type of, as a cyclist yourself, and a professional cyclist in particular, what type of support is needed from, whether it's government, corporate sponsors, and the public for the sport of cycling to flourish in Grenada?
Well, then we're talking, events. Events cost obviously a lot of money to put on, and it's just finding that funding to put on events to attract more riders. It all has to go at the same time. Like, you have to have more events, and then you have to have more people interested in cycling, and then you can do more of the next thing, and it would slowly build.
And does Grenada have the potential to become a recognized cycling nation? Do you believe so?
I mean, I'll tell you what, we've got the talent for it. That's one thing I can say without a doubt. Some of these kids, I mean, some of these under 16s and under 18s, like, I'm telling you right now, they're faster than I was when I was their age, by a lot. So,
and you would have experienced you would have experienced them cycling at the OECS, I think the junior category.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. and we were racing all together, so I could see how strong they were. And I'm telling you, they're faster than I was when I was their age. But what they need is the access to racing. So obviously that's racing on the island, which we have some, which is good. But also racing off the island and the other islands. Trinidad have a strong scene, probably the strongest of all the Caribbean nations, I think. But also there are just various races up and down the Isles that I think, for my opinion, it's just the more racing, the better, because that's where you develop and you get stronger, and you get the experience.
Cycling is not just a competitive sport. It is also, considered to be an excellent exercise because you go to the gym, they get on, as they say, either the treadmill, cycling, whatever it is like that. So why should more Grenadians consider cycling?
I've been saying this to some of my family, some of my friends who don't cycle. Cycling is the best sport. It combines some things in a way that just make it so enjoyable. So obviously you're exercising, you're exploring. You could go for a walk, but you don't really see so much on a walk because you can't go far. But on a bike, in an hour, you can actually see quite a lot of stuff. And then the third aspect is that it's social. You can ride with anyone. You can have that exploring experience, and you can share that with other people. And I think between those three things, it's actually quite unique.
How important, and John Otley asked a question about nutrition earlier, but just as a follow-up, how important are, nutrition, whole issue of recovery, and, the mental discipline to your success thus far?
Yeah, I mean, it's very important. The nutrition aspect, let's just take that part. It's like to keep your body fueled. It's not just for racing. You have to fuel your body so you can complete the training. If you don't fuel that correctly, then you'll have a bad training day, and then the whole week is compromised. So it's really important to just be exactly correct. I track most of my food in an app most of the time, and likewise the recovery. Sleeping is another one, super important. You got to have 9 hours of sleep uninterrupted. I try to not wake up too much, not be on my phone at night. So it's little things, a bit of this, a bit of this, a bit of this, a bit of this, and it just adds up to improve your performance over time.
Where do you see yourself? I mean, in probably 5 years.
In 5 years, well, I'll tell you one thing. I really, really, really want to have gone to the Olympics. That's day, every morning, every day. That's all I'm. It's not all I'm thinking about, but it's one of the main things I'm thinking about. And on that path to the Olympics, I want to keep improving and hopefully start getting medals at the international level. That's the other thing. Commonwealth Games, World Champs. I mean, to even say out loud, I want to get a medal at World Champs sounds crazy. But I think to be successful, probably in any sport, you have to be a little bit delusional at the start. At some point you have to believe things that no one else believes. And I see the vision of where I want to be, and I'm doing everything I can to try and get there.
And if a young Grenadian told you today that I want to become a professional cyclist, what advice would you give that young person?
Number one, I think consistency. You're not even gonna get close in a year. That doesn't mean you can't do it, because you can do anything. You could be professional at anything you want to be, whether it's football, cycling, cricket, athletics. It doesn't matter. You have to you believe it, but you also follow through, and you do. You don't take weeks off because you don't want to. You just keep going, keep training. And when the door's shut, you just keep going again and again and again. And honestly, the consistency, it does pay off. And sometimes it won't feel like it. You go a year or 2 years without feeling like you're getting closer. But eventually, if you just keep plugging away, the doors will open.
We talk about the road cycling earlier and your transition from road to, to track. But let's go back on road. Your toughest climb you've ever ridden. I mean, I watch a lot of cycling on particular weekends, different tours, and it entails a lot of. For some people, they believe it's just cycling miles on flat stretch, but there's some tough climbs. What would you say is your toughest climb you've ever ridden?
You know what, Hayes, that's funny you asked that because today I rode the second longest climb I've ever ridden in my whole life.
Wow.
Um, it climbed to the elevation was 2 kilometers, so 2,000 meters above sea level. It took an hour and a half. I mean, I wasn't riding hard, I was just riding my normal training, just zone two, so not pushing too hard. But yeah, it took a long time. I think that's the longest climb. The hardest climb, I think any climb can be hard if you're pushed hard enough. It could be a 3 minute climb that in training is easy, but when it's at the end of a 4 hour race, like I said, and you have to do the hardest effort possible, those are the ones that you remember.
We spoke, and we sort of in and between, touch on little things regarding being a professional cyclist, but the cost of competing internationally and the importance of sponsorship. What would you say? I mean, as a professional cyclist, there is a tremendous cost you will see involved because now you're at a camp, not in the UK where you're actually living and based, but in Switzerland, for example. And then, a lot of moving parts, when you have to travel, your equipment, all these sort of things. So there are costs involved internationally and the importance of sponsorship. Let's talk about that, Greg.
Yeah, I mean, this now that I'm trying to get to the Olympics and do all of that, the costs are getting insane. I mean, it's ridiculous. I track everything in my spreadsheet to keep track of how much I'm spending and to make sure I've got enough money. And honestly, when people say, or some people have asked me, what's the one thing that would stop you from achieving your goals? It's the fact is that if I ran out of money. And yeah, like you said, sponsors are super important. That's pretty much the only reason I can do it. And that's not just luck. I put a lot of work in, like on social media, um, to create the platform that sponsors want to put money into, and then to create the post for the sponsors, all while doing the actual athlete work. Yeah, a lot goes into it. I mean, my dad said the other day, it's like you're running a business, and it kind of is like running a business. Like I have to manage all these different things. Like I'm managing the funding, I'm managing the logistics of booking flights, and I'm booking the cheapest possible flights and like the cheapest possible accommodation. And I'm just stretching every bit of the budget I have to make it possible. And currently, sometimes I don't even know how, because I don't even know how it works sometimes, and sometimes I'll get lucky and I get a new sponsor just in time. Um, that's happened a couple of times, but yeah, I'm just doing everything I can and hoping that it works out.
But as a follow up, are you on Olympic Solidarity program or anything like that, sir?
I don't think I'm on the Olympic Solidarity. I do get some support from the Olympic Federation or the Olympic, the Olympic Association. But yeah.
Oh, but just that, nothing like Olympic Solidarity, okay. But I assume probably closer to
No.
because we should be into the cycle for that, and certainly hoping that as our only cyclists, professional cyclists, and one with a passion, and one who most likely may succeed, we should give him that opportunity, and we're hoping that whether it's the Olympic Solidarity, whether it's through the National Sports Council, the National Lottery, whatever it is, that there will be some sort of support to ensure that you go all the way to continue representing Grenada, to qualify for LA 2028. And we here at Talk Sports, Saturday Sports Special, will do whatever it is in terms of making that appeal for Red Walters, who continues to fly the Grenada flag very high across the world, we will say, because I think it was just around the time of the Middle East tension, you were basically getting ready to head to Australia. I don't think you made the trip to Australia because of the whatever was happening there. Talk to me about that, right?
Yeah, well, firstly, it's funny how things work. Sometimes I say, what's the saying? Sometimes a curse is a blessing. So I wanted this year to do three. There's three World Cups. I wanted to do all three because I needed the experience at the top level. The first one was in Australia. So yeah, I had a flight to. It was after Pan American Champs. I flew to Dubai because it was on the way, and then I was going to fly from Dubai to Australia, and then literally 1 or 2 days after landing in Dubai, that's when the conflict started. So then the flights got cancelled, and it was pretty sad. But yeah, looked pretty quickly. It was like that's not going to happen. But where I say the curse turns into a blessing was when I eventually did the next two World Cups, which were in Hong Kong and Malaysia. By the end of the Malaysian one, I ran out of money. I maxed out a credit card. So if I had gone to the Australian one and the flights weren't cancelled, then I would have run out of money before that, and I wouldn't have been able to. I don't know what would have happened because I needed to do two World Cups to qualify for World Champs. So yeah, it would have been a problem regardless. So luckily, like I said, it ended up being a blessing. Yeah.
Let me welcome my co-host in Toronto, Canada, Rudian Sylvan. Good afternoon to you, Rudian. And as I indicated, Rudian will be joining us. Not that it's independence in Canada; it's independence here in the United States. What is happening is that the Canadians are actually playing Morocco in a crucial World Cup match today, and I think that is that
yeah.
would be their independence if they're able to make it to the next round, and probably one of the two African countries that stand in, Morocco and Egypt. Certainly Africa representing us well in the World Cup, and then come Sunday, I think Red Walters will be glued to his television to see whether or not
England and
to be honest, I was rooting for Cape Verde more than anyone else, so I'm a little bit sad now.
I think everybody has a new African team, and I think I also my African team used to be Cameroon. Even though they make it, I think my team have just changed now to Cape Verde, and I think Cape Verde certainly performed very well. It makes Africa proud. And the performance,
I think they won the World Cup.
And I think the World Cup should have just stopped there and done.
Not only won the hearts of many, but I would say they won the World Cup because what we saw there, was big. But Ruben, while you're there, we covered quite a bit, and I was telling the Red Walters before we came on air that many years ago, there were once a time, as Rudian, you might recall, that there was the Grenada Amateur Athletic and Cycling Association.
Yes, it was.
That cycling was actually part of the athletics fraternity, and then they had to remove cycling because a lot of things have changed. They had to remove cycling, and then they had to remove amateur, because then it became, so there were a couple of transitions. Cycling had its own federation, so they had their own body to govern them, and then it moved from amateur athletic association to then athletic association, because then it was where you can afford to pay money and things. But cycling was a big sport in Grenada, and I'm certain most of our folks who are watching might recall, because they certainly have an interest in hearing what Red Walter is saying, because they know that, and even those who may be a bit young may have heard from their parents and others that cycling was a big sport in Grenada many years ago, even though it was on the grass track. You know, the old Queen's Park, for example, where, you know, folks used to be out, especially for the Whitsuntide games. You know, it was part of it. And in addition to that, let me add, I didn't say that, the various high schools, the various secondary schools, cycling used to be a segment of the program.
Really?
Yes,
That's really cool.
Yes, cycling used to be a segment of the sporting program. So even though you have the track and field, there were segments inside of the school's program for as late as a few years ago. The St. Joseph Convent in St. George actually had cycling. So the girls were actually cycling, representing their various colors, their houses. And yeah, it was, and I'm certain that at some point in time, you'll find cycling is back on the you know, on the program. And hopefully with your thoughts here, you've been on the program. We're hoping to have the members of the Cycling Federation in some weeks to come to be on our program. The whole idea is to get the whole revival of cycling. Not that cycling is dead, but to get cycling back on the agenda. We know the challenges being faced, and you rightly said that. You know, the fear that some have in terms of cycling on the roads in Grenada in particular. But what's about cycling as a tool for youth development, you know, health, and importantly, environmental sustainability? Because with cycling, there is no gas, there is no diesel, you know. So environmental sustainability. Talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, firstly, the bit you said before, I think about like health and stuff, and with the use as well, I think it's also like that bit of independence. At least that's what it was when I was, you know, 11, 12, 13, 14, where, you know, of course you can't drive at that age, but you can hop on a bike, and you can still go and visit your friends and you know, go out or whatever. But obviously, yeah, the environmental side of things is pretty big too. For as a mode of transport, you know, you're not burning any fuel, you're not creating any emissions, so that's a really nice bonus.
And Rudian, especially in a place like Grenada, despite the hilly terrain, you know, we know cycling as a form of transportation. I mean, you know, I see no reason why people cannot use, especially, let's take an example. You live in the St. George's area, and it's pretty much flat where from point A to point B. You know, and despite the concerns about the traffic and some of the motorists and things, there's no reason why people can, at times, get onto the cycle and, you know, cycle.
I'll tell you what, a peak rush hour, it's probably quicker to cycle than it is to drive. With the traffic, you just go right through.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was certainly about to say the same to Michael. I'll say some countries you go to, just everything they do is cycling. To go to a lot of places, look at India, China, a lot of these things they do is just cycling than driving.
Well, Rudian, just let me intervene here. Here in New York, in particular in Brooklyn and parts of Manhattan, I know, I've seen it. The roads are now narrow enough. So where you had probably 3 lanes, is now 2, and the next lane is basically a cycling lane.
We have the same thing. We have the same thing here in Toronto.
Yeah, they encourage more people to cycle. Right? And you find now that cyclists, even there are laws, you know, protecting the cyclists. You know, there are more laws.
There's more laws cyclists than anything else.
Than the motorists, you know, to that extent.
Yeah.
But looking at how that can, you know, you encourage more people to cycle in Grenada, to use cycle, and that in itself will help, as we say, in health, environmental sustainability, and ultimately it may be a launching pad for cycling on a larger scale in Grenada.
I mean, if that was a side effect, I would be super proud, because I think especially with the traffic building year on year. And I know a lot of the guys who are in Grenada all the time. I mean, for me, it's really obvious. Every year I go back, because I go back pretty much every year exactly for national camps. The traffic is just a little bit worse. So I think the more people that cycle, the less of a problem the traffic becomes, and it's easier to get around.
Yeah, I was kind of concerned too when I heard, I think it was earlier this week, the Prime Minister himself at a conference, and he was speaking about the traffic in Grenada, and I mean, the Prime Minister will be traveling in his official motorcade, so obviously it should be easy, for him to move about. But if he's expressing concern, therefore, it is a serious concern.
There is a serious concern.
Yeah. So, and obviously, there is a need for, and probably somehow, for people to consider moving more towards cycling, than driving. And there's no reason, even if you have a vehicle, that you can decide, okay, probably 2 out of 3 days for the week I'll cycle, etc. Leave the car home, and do some cycling. Because obviously there are times you may want to drive the car for some reason. You may have to go to the supermarket, etc. So there will be exceptions, But looking towards cycling and ensuring that more people can cycle and cycle safely to us safely. Yeah, that's it. That's a concern. But normally, Red, what is the format like for a national championships in Grenada? And this weekend is national championships. What is this like?
Yeah, so normally on Saturday we'll have the time trial. So that's like an individual race against the clock. We go off at separate times and they time each one of us, and then the winner, of course, is the one who did the fastest time. So that's a real mental test, because you haven't got anyone to compare yourself. It's just you and the road, and just doing your best effort for 40 minutes, 50 minutes, or whatever it is. And then on Sunday, that's the road race. That, for me, that's the more interesting one. It's the more fun one, where it's a mass start, everyone starts together, and it's usually much longer. So instead of being 45, 50 minutes, it could be 3 to 4 hours. So yeah, the course changes each year. So sometimes it's really hilly, sometimes it's not quite as hilly. So it suits different people better. But yeah, that's the way it normally goes.
Mm-hmm. As we get ready to wrap up, let's talk about the infrastructure needed to go cycling safely in the Caribbean, including the roads, velodrome, and cycling clubs, etc. You mentioned, probably except for I think Trinidad, some facilities like the velodrome, the indoor facility, etc.
Mm-hmm.
What sort of infrastructure is needed to bring cycling to an acceptable, probably international standard, where probably we can see, and probably through your efforts, cyclists, clubs from Europe coming to the Caribbean?
I think number one is probably awareness from the drivers. And I think, there's loads of ways you could do that. But for example, let's say you put signs up at every junction, beware cyclists or careful for cyclists or something like that. Just so, people are looking out for cyclists, because especially in Grenada where there's not, most days you wouldn't see a cyclist, unless you're on the Reef Bishop Highway. So I think just so that's like in drivers' minds generally, and then they might be giving more space and that kind of thing. And then it would be nice if there was like a section that could be closed to cars 1 day a week or something like that. I think some places have something like this where, let's say, I don't know where you could find such a road, but if we could find like some area where we just say, hey, this is cycling only on a Sunday or something, that would be a really cool way to get people into cycling. But yeah, I think it just needs just a little bit of awareness is probably number one.
But you think the conditions are ideal too for some of the cyclists from Europe and things to cycle in the Caribbean?
No, it's not ideal. It's difficult because Like, so for example, a couple of years ago, again, like I said, it's getting a little bit worse each year, but if I went for a ride at 6 a.m. Or 5 a.m. and I'm just doing loops of Maurice Highway, it's not too bad. It's not really dangerous. Like, for the most part, it's fine. The roads are a little bit bumpy, but that section is actually not too bad. So it's the only thing you have to contend with is the traffic. And yeah, it's only really bad at the end towards, the roundabout towards St. George's. That's where, once it gets to 8 a.m., 9 a.m., then the traffic starts building up. So that's the main thing for me when I go over for national champs and I want to do my training rides. Yeah, that's the hardest part.
So the best option for the Caribbean will be the velodrome, making sure for track cycling, not the road cycling. Then.
No, I mean, the velodrome would be good, but also just a dedicated cycle circuit. Like, a velodrome is the reason why I hesitate to say a velodrome is because Barbados had a velodrome, and recently they demolished it because it wasn't getting used enough, or I think something like that. So I would hate to see, something like that get built and then not used or demolished or something like that. So I think a cycle circuit, which would be much cheaper anyway than a velodrome, and it could be set up where there's dual paths, so there could be like a running path. Again, this is my dreamer's hat on, but if you had like a cycle circuit with a running circuit, then it's used by runners and cyclists, and it's just away from the cars completely. That would be the best thing.
Right. Thank you very much, Red Walters, our cycling ambassador, who he carries that title because he's the only one who carries as a professional cyclist in Europe.
Yeah.
We want to wish you all the best, and we'll see how we can continue that conversation, especially for some level of support to Red Walters as he continues for his desire to represent Grenada, particularly at the LA 2028. Well, we know Commonwealth Games are already in sight because you most likely will be representing Grenada at the Commonwealth Games, right, in Glasgow.
Yes.
Right. But the aspect for qualifying for the Olympic Games, that is where you need to participate and get into, being qualified and being qualified. We have a 2-year window at least where you need to participate. Yeah. Just to recap again, how many of those races you need to participate within the next 2 years?
Yeah, there's 10. So there's one Pan American Champs per year, and then 3 World Cups per year, and then 1 World Champs per year. So 5 events per year for 2 years. Yeah. Okay
then, Red. Yeah. So thank you very much, Red, and we want to wish you all the best as you pursue your dreams, and hopefully we'll see what happens. All the best, and continue your training in Switzerland.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it, and hope you have a great weekend.
All right, thank you very much. Yeah, all right then. Folks, that's Red Walters, who speaking to us live from Switzerland, where he is in camp. He is preparing for, training. He's training. And probably by next weekend, we'll be hearing about Red Walters. Again, competing as every weekend. Last weekend, he was competing. Weekend before, he competing. And he's always competing. And, he was grateful enough to squeeze us into his, despite him being on this training, he was able to squeeze us into it. Rudian,
certainly that was so good, and he's been doing great. He's been doing he's been doing a lot of good work. So certainly, we are grateful for him to give us that the opportunity to speak to us, and he's been making us proud on the world stage for cycling. And it's a big cost, right, Michael? It's certainly a big cost, and that's the reason why we do want to bring those athletes on to let us know they not the struggles, but a pathway to greatness. That you see them on the circuit and you see them running and you see them with the Grenadian colors, but you don't know what they have to go through before they get there. It's a lot, So certainly it's grateful for him to give us the opportunity.
Yeah, and I find Red was trying to be a bit modest, in
A
terms
little
of,
bit, yeah.
a bit mild, but others will be saying, hey, I
Say
need
what it
support.
is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
say
say
what it
what it
is.
is. Yeah,
But he was being a bit modest, and I could understand,
yeah.
him. But we want to make that appeal, and we'll be reaching out that he's the only of its kind, and is not to say it's about 5 or 10 of them, on the circuit. He's the only one.
He's the only
And
one. Yeah.
I mean, and you can't miss him, because once he's competed, you've seen the Grenada colors.
You see the Grenada colors.
Yeah.
It's hard to miss.
Hard to miss.
It's hard to miss.
Whether it's the lottery authority, well, he's receiving some assistance already from the Olympic Committee, but there's quite a lot that he has to. Look, he's saying he's maxing out his card at times.
He's maxing up his credit card. Yeah.
Yeah, that shouldn't be. And he's representing the island. And we are hoping for the best. We can't wait until he gets on the podium. We have a tendency
and then we reach out. Yeah. And then we reach out then.
Until we get to the podium to reach out. Now is the time to reach out to Mr. Walters and see how they can assist Red Walters. Red Walters, as a matter of fact, Red should also be carrying some local sponsorship, right?
Yep.
He is competing across Europe and Asia and all these other things. I mean, he should be a brand ambassador as well.
He should be a brand ambassador. He should be having the sponsors logo on his clothes, on his bike.
Yeah, he should be a brand ambassador, and things like that. So whether it's the, probably the diaspora affairs, they should. And talking about diaspora affairs, Rudy, and I want to use the opportunity to express a little disappointment that we had this diaspora homecoming this week in particular. And well, I already publicly stated it that I was really disappointed that sports, they did not see
part of it.
Sports on the agenda. And I don't understand why anyone involved in sports should be reaching out to the diaspora homecoming. Diaspora homecoming should see sports as an important element of economic development in addition to others. So just as how you see health, just as how you see education, agriculture, tourism, you should see sports.
Sports the same way. Yep.
We cannot just be looking at sports in the context of competition, right? Look, I mean, so many things, for example, is it not through sports that our own Sokirani James being, now being put on the Eastern Caribbean currency?
Dollar. Yeah.
Okay? It's through sports. Right?
Sports.
And a host of other things. So I cannot see how sports Listen, I was expecting diaspora committee, diaspora homecoming to say, hey, yes, we followed up. It probably was something we missed. I cannot see how anyone from sports should be reaching out. Sports should be seen as an economic pillar, right? Making a contribution to the development of Grenada, and not just winning medals or competing and having a motorcade and this and that when someone wins a medal. No, it should not be that. They should have a seat around the table discussing the challenges sportsmen, sportswomen, the sports industry face. In addition to that, we have been hearing from so many folks over the years that we have been hosting the program, the importance of sports in terms and the financial windfall as well. It's now a multi-billion-dollar industry.
Multi-billion industry. Yep, it is.
And we can use sports to do that. And we talk a lot about sports tourism, for example.
Because they don't see sports as important to build anything that they are doing. And we have seen it in so many Caribbean islands, but we're not seeing the same attitude in the European countries or even here in North America. Sports build a nation, and that's what they use sports to do.
And you know, I say that too because I've been following some of the diaspora conferences that normally would take place outside of
Take this,
Grenada.
yeah.
Jamaica,
Yeah.
for example, has a big diaspora conference. There's one in Nigeria, there's Kenya. And to be honest with you, sports is
Always.
always
Always.
part of the agenda. There's no
Agenda.
if
Always.
and but about it. And certainly Jamaica
Must.
knows
Yeah.
why sports has to
Yeah.
be part of it.
Part of it. Yeah.
Kenya and Nigeria, they both know why sports have to be
Why
part of it,
sports have to be part of it? Yeah.
especially when it comes to the diaspora. And when you look, Rudian, at the landscape of sports in Grenada as it is now, when you look at sports in particular,
Mm.
it's driven particularly by the in the diaspora, I should say,
Diaspora.
because
Yeah.
most of our sports, whether it's sports ambassadors, competitors, whatever it is, they are based in the diaspora.
Based in the diaspora. Yeah.
Yes, they
Yeah.
are based in the diaspora. So
Yeah.
if you have a diaspora homecoming celebrations with agenda items and you do not have sports in it, something is missing. You know, I am not saying that we have to reach out, but when I realized that sports wasn't on that, I was like, you know, come
Yeah.
on. I mean, you know, something was wrong, something went wrong, and we have to admit that, that you know we missed the ball, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, so,
There's
but
too much. They have been. I mean, we might always get in trouble for what we say, but but that's what this thing is about. It's about to help sports, and I think there's too much emphasis on the carnival and that part of entertainment going there. And I'm not saying no, don't put it on there, because the entertainment part do put us on the map just the same way as sports put us on the map. So I think there should be a fair comparison to have sports involving the things that you are doing. And if you don't see that, then I guess sometimes we say we are the wrong person in charge of who is in charge of that particular vision for Grenada. So certainly I think we missed the mark once more, and we have seen it in the past before when our leaders was abroad and didn't speak of sports, and when he was in the African nation, and then now here we come again, another opportunity, and yet sport is still not on the table. So we are missing the opportunities over and over and over, and that's why many countries is far ahead of us in certain things, because we fail in that part of it. So
yeah,
and when you need to go back now, you look at just looking at the World Cup now, and you see that alone, people crying for a sporting event, literally crying.
Mhm.
And what do they get from that? Nothing. They still got to pay for the ticket. It wasn't free. They have to spend the $100 for a ticket. They have to buy the jersey,
And some of
and
them would have traveled from their home countries, right?
they're traveling, and
Hotel
they have to buy
accommodation.
food and hotel and transportation for
Yeah,
that. And they've been there and when the team get to move on to the next stage, they are following as well,
yeah.
which another cost and another cost and another cost. There's nothing in it for them. Absolutely nothing, like, but just the glory for
I
their
think
country.
I think we undervalue, and
Yeah,
particularly in Grenada, we undervalue the importance of sports. And
yeah,
again, we still in the syndrome of just celebrating, right? And
yeah.
sometimes just when we, win a medal or something like that. So
Celebration come up
or in the moment,
in the
right?
moment. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
just in the moment. And talking about the moment, Rudian, Morocco takes a 1-0 lead over Cameroon. So
Yeah,
Morocco is leading
it's okay.
1-0.
It's just
Our African
expected.
brothers
It's okay. Yeah.
representing us. I know it's a hard task. We want to support an African team, but at the same time,
You
it's
have to.
we
Yeah.
can't
And listen, I watch World Cup many times, and many years watching the World Cup, but this one, something special about it. It's a different World Cup. You don't see the blowout as you've seen. Look at last night game was 1-0. Like, you don't see, that in the end. I think Ghana just give up, to me, the last 5 minutes, it seemed like, well, 5 minutes plus extra time, it seemed like they just give up. They fatigue. They're just tired, and we see what's happening. And then we see opportunities. Is it opportunities where they talk about the VA system and they have all this technology, but is it accurate? Are they missing out? Because they missed out on a few opportunities because was Portugal supposed to be there or were they supposed to go in penalty? you know, so, and another thing, Michael, and I want to say it here too, and some people may agree with me, and I think they're doing a lot of changes, and one of the changes they have to do is the clock. I think it just as you watch basketball and you watch football. Every time the whistle blow, the clock stop. And I think the same thing should be in football, which is certainly make the game that extra time we're talking about. Sometimes teams winning the extra time. It's like you say 3 minutes and we know 5 minutes, and they just come and score a goal. So I think once the whistle blow, they should stop the clock. They have the system. They have the everything in there, and that's something new. I think they should really put in. But it's part of the sport. It's been this way for a long time. But I think that's one of the changes should add on. And then they go to if this is 90 minutes, it's 90 minutes. That's what it is. Yeah.
Well, one of the things that we can also say, Julian, is that despite the many controversies leading up to the World Cup, by and large, it's turning out to be a very
successful. Very successful.
Competitive. Well, we don't know the other side. Yeah, I would say the competitiveness. And certainly with the Capo Verde, and their exploits and what they brought to the World Cup. I thought, and I believe that they probably would have won a lot more fans than even Argentina.
Oh, they did. They did.
Yeah,
and listen, I love Argentina. It's my team since I was a little boy. But watching that second goal, that to me, that's the goal of the World Cup. That's the goal. That was a beauty. That was just a beauty of a shot.
And by the way, he almost had a
did it again
towards the end. Towards the end.
Right at the end. Right at the end.
This guy is special. Julian, I wouldn't be surprised that coming out of this World Cup, you will see a lot of these guys and then will play bigger teams. Bigger teams. They're gonna move up. If those who in small leagues have to move up. Yeah. You cannot understate the contribution of the goalkeeper to the team. He is the elder in the team, but it seems as if he was like the grandfather as well.
Certainly.
Marshall, those guys. I mean, there's so many things. As a matter of fact, I think there was a video circulating where Messi actually paid homage to him. Messi reached out to him and probably had a brief talk. And I don't know. These and knowing for a team that is a country just around 500,000, have their own problems. They small island nation.
Of course, and they have and certainly, and even with that too, right there, the one them making it alone build the momentum in the country for the youths, and which is a good thing. And just getting where they get to over some of the big names countries, they are the best. They are the best. Yes, we see Morocco doing well. We see Morocco now have a chance to move on and play in the next round. But I would say they are the best team, the best African team in terms of playing the game in this World Cup. A little disappointment with Senegal, like I said, Ghana I think could have done better, but definitely just that them alone. I think South Africa, they've been gone for a while, but certainly. Yeah, I think they are the better African team, and you're going to see great things about them. You'll hear about them. The ranking will go up in the world based on that performance. They will get the opportunity now to play more games, more friendlies, and those type of things.
Really, But that friendly thing, some countries might be afraid to play them in a friendly.
To play them, but at least,
after such performance, you don't want to take a chance. Yeah, but these guys, because they will want to come out and win.
Change will happen. Change, and people hear of this country that they never heard of before.
Yeah,
I look up the country, man. It's a beautiful country. It's it's small, yes, but they just.
In fact, there's a thing that says that since they got into the competition, how they started playing, the interest showed in terms of searches, right? The search engines that people typing up Cape Verde, about them and things like that. So the interest, it's tremendous,
It's tremendous.
Certainly, I expect after last night, there will be more interest. People will want to hear.
The images. People will find ways to look for. Yeah, they're going to look for stars. Yeah.
There's another thing I saw, Rudy, and is that while the game was being played, I don't know where you looked at your game, but my coverage also shown where when they scored, the reaction of the
in their country. Yes, I saw a clip of that.
Not only that, the timeline, right?
The timeline,
3-4 o'clock in the morning, that kind of
in the morning.
And there were thousands of people and thousands of kids.
There's another one too. Was it Egypt? Or another one. It was like 5 in the morning. Yeah. And they was out there. So
but not here the important thing about it is that yes, there will be people there having fun, but there were so many kids, and one of the commentators was saying, shouldn't they be sleeping? And then the other commentator was saying, not when the country is performing.
Not when the country is performing like that. Yeah. And people, and listen, these are teams most people expect to leave a long time. But we're talking about 24 of your best players in your country against 24 of the best players of another country. I know people talk about comparing the smaller countries to bigger countries, but at the same time, just 24 men. 24 men that from one country, and we played another 24 men from another country, then 24 men another country. It's not like the teams are going to war where Argentina have so much million and then you have 500,000. There's no way you could win. But with 24 men, when they put their heads together, when they say they're not going to give up and give in, and that's what happened. They never give up, they never give in, which put a lot of countries will think have the same concept, the same idea. We don't give up and we don't give in, and they play it up until the last second.
Right. Well, I don't want to sound too sexist, but Cape Verde has some of the prettiest women. I would have. Yeah.
I didn't want to say it on here, Michael. I'm happy you said it, but you said it. It's. I'm telling you, the tourism was sky high now. That tourism will go off the roof now. But certainly it was really good. Really good to see that.
And through sports, Rudy, that point you're making there, because when you talk about tourism and things, they are all ambassadors. I believe they would have sold Cape Verde to the world.
They just did.
Want to travel to
people want to visit the Cape Verde.
Yeah.
And I see some. Listen, I know my Grenada's beach.
The tourism authority in Cape Verde should just be paying these guys millions of dollars.
They want sky high. You just want sky high. Listen, I love my island. I love my Grenada. But when you see Grenada's beach and you're like an but when I see that their beach, I said, is this Grenada? Because it's an R as well, So it was the clear water, the white sand. It was beautiful, and I certainly think, the tourism just went sky high. Sooner or later, they will have an international airport if they don't have one already, because people will be going there. People will be certainly going there.
Gerald, I'm disappointed that no shots are not taken to goal by teams. Probably they are, but let me tell you something.
Well, this is what I said after you're done.
I am saying, to me, the goalkeepers in this tournament, they have been outstanding. So they might have been taking shots, but in terms of goals, the goalkeepers have been outstanding in this tournament. Go ahead.
Yes, the goalkeepers have been certainly outstanding, especially when you watch a Cape Verde and you watch other countries. But looking at the Japanese goalkeeper, he was really phenomenal to me. But the defense of all these teams was really good. I think that's one of the things to me was the defense. The defense was certainly really good, and I think that's what changed a lot of these guys and them. The way they play was the defense. The defense was phenomenal. Some of these players, some of these countries, they defended very well, and I think that will certainly make a big difference. But I think there are sometimes some of those guys them trying to find their feet, man. They don't even know their right foot from their left foot. It's like that's the thing that then you inside the box and then you drill like they're trying to like. And that's why I go to some players like Messi, Mbappe, and even Cristiano Ronaldo and other great players, Haaland, and the one from England. When you give them that opportunity, they're scoring.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of times guys in them looking for their feet. They don't even know which foot, like they're looking for the proper foot to kick with. Listen, these opportunities, and I think that's what a lot of times when this question asked about not taking enough shots, is because they don't know what foot to kick with. They're searching for their feet.
Going is saying, had not for the travel restrictions, this has been the best World Cup in the last 6
Yes.
for the unforeseen interruption.
And I know we could say we have an idea, like, yes, I have my team that I would like to win, but I still think this World Cup is up and grabs. We still don't really know who could win this World Cup. And yes, we might pick somebody and say, hey, that team was going to win from day one, but it's still up in skies. We do have some phenomenal games. Mexico is playing a phenomenal football. Mexico is playing phenomenal football. It's going to be so hard for that game tonight because that game is in Mexico. And of course, if they do win, they get to come out of Mexico for the first time. But that game is going to be a game to watch. But England is not no easy, weak team. So that will certainly could go to penalty shootout tonight.
Is that tomorrow?
Tomorrow that can go to penalty shootout. I still see a big disappointment coming. There's a disappointment could come, and it could come tonight. That disappointment could come tonight.
Yeah. Tonight is Paraguay and France.
Yeah, and that's where that disappointment could come. I think that could be that disappointment, and I think Spain is going to beat Portugal. That's my thought. But
listen, folks. Yeah. On Sunday, please have your lunch very early. Right, I'm telling you. Once you come from church, and I'll try to get a rest after church, have your lunch early because Brazil versus Norway.
Yeah.
And then Mexico versus England.
You
can't ask for any. That's your lunch and your dinner. Right?
And your dinner. Yeah, you can ask for better.
Your lunch and your
cannot
dinner.
Ask for better. Yeah, but it wouldn't surprise me based on, like I said, I see how Spain is playing. I see how it's playing. Michael, I will say this here that I can see the US going all the way to the semifinals.
Check the comment here, Rudy. Says Mexico is not normal.
They're not normal. And they're playing home. They're not. And the fans, then you see the Norwegian fans. They go with the team, and they have that rowing thing that they do, and they think. And everybody's doing this now, even in the parliament. They do it in parliament in Norwegian. So it's like, that is when you have that with you. And we have, like I said, we haven't seen Brazil play to the level we think they can play in. I haven't seen Spain play to the level that Spain can play. Yes, I've seen the United States play on a level that's beyond, especially in that first game, beyond what I expected them. I think they can beat Belgium. Belgium wasn't supposed to be there. I don't know why Senegal sell the game to them. I don't know what happened there, but that's my take. It's just like for 80 minutes, you shut them down with 2 goals, and in 3 minutes, they make them score 2 goals. I have no idea what that was about. So, now that we have the controversy of the penalty shot, I don't think I wouldn't give a penalty there, but the contact, yes, but the guy was going to kick the ball, and listen. This is a hard one to give a penalty there, man. I just think it was, yeah.
So just to recap, Canada and Morocco actually playing now. Later on, we have Paraguay and France. Then on Sunday, Brazil versus Norway, and then Mexico against England. And then on Monday, Portugal versus Spain in the first game at 3:00. And then later on at 8:00, USA versus Belgium.
Yeah.
And then we have the final round which will be on Tuesday, Argentina versus Egypt, and then Switzerland versus Colombia.
Colombia.
Guys, for the next 3 days, we
have some
will be
phenomenal,
very good football.
And all of these games can go right to penalties. Literally, all of these games. There is no blowing out. But you just never know. Like again, I always say the goals that win the match, so one could go the goal anyhow. It could be your own goal or something that could make you win the game. The goal can, as long as you go in the back of the net, the team get the goal. So anything can happen up until then. But so far, it's a phenomenal game, and I really think I really hope that I really believe that even Cape Verde fans and the people who go in the back still will tune on to the World Cup, because it's certainly been a really good World Cup so far. And like I said, if it wasn't for the travel restriction, this could have been a phenomenal beyond that. But again, the amount of people they have is still way more than expected. In time, we hear a lot of people didn't want to go to the US, don't want to be in the US, but certainly it was that. So yeah.
All right, then. So,
all right. It's always a pleasure. Sorry for the late coming in.
Okay, then.
Next week, I am at an Ontario Championship. I might be driving back at the time, but I can pull over. I might be. It's in Detroit.
Ontario? Detroit?
It's in Detroit. Yeah. Well, not Detroit. It's Windsor, so close to Detroit. Yeah. So I might stay. My athlete finishing about 11 o'clock in the morning, but I might just stay and get on the show and then drive back. So yeah. So
all right. All the best then.
All right, we'll talk. Okay then.
No problem.
Yeah.
All right, then, folks. So that's Rudy and Sylvan talking to us live in Toronto. Earlier we had Red Walters, our professional cyclist. He was speaking to us live from Switzerland. And certainly, again, folks, happy Independence. It's 250th Independence of the United States. So lots happening this weekend. But certainly for you four sporting fans, the big thing is World Cup, certainly. But also this weekend, we have the OECS Track and Field Championships taking place in St. Kitts at the King Collins Athletic Stadium in St. Kitts. It's the OECS Track and Field Championships. And we also have the Barbados Grand Prix taking place in Bridgetown, Barbados today. That's later on. As you know, we have both Kirani James and Nazio John on the Panthers, Team Panthers, I should say. Why I say Falcons? Team Panthers. They'll be representing Team Panthers. And then there's a Grenada team as well, participating, a relay team that will also be participating. I think Shaquin Toussaint is also individually invited. I can't remember which team he's on, but he's one of the three Grenadians who there. And then there's a 4x4 team that will be participating, invited as well to participate in the relay events, right? So we looking forward to that, and that will be the Barbados Grand Prix, right, taking place at the Usain Bolt Stadium today. And then we have the track and field, OECS track and field, also at the Kim Collins Athletic Stadium in St. Kitts, right? And then there's also basketball, where the time zone a bit different. We have the Spice Isle Hawks participating in the tournament in London, in the United Kingdom, and they also, I think the time zone will be different. So by now, they should have wrapped up because there are a couple of events actually taking place. It's a sort of long rapid sort of tournament, and let me see, it was 6:15 p.m. I think that will be UK time. NCC London Lions versus Spice Isle Hawks. So that would have been probably at least an hour ago, that or so, 6:15 p.m. So that would have been roughly 1:15 p.m. we would have started. But the tournament schedule actually for today That's the 4th, yeah. So they had the opening ceremony. Then they took on the Whitefire School. They defeated school already in that game. So they have played one game. Let's see, they had another game, yes, at 3 o'clock UK time, back in Habley. They would have played. And then, so it's 3 games they actually were scheduled to play today. I knew they won the first game earlier today. That's this morning against Whitefire School. We'll get a scoreline for the Barking Abbey and then the NCC London Lions. And then tomorrow they also play, and then they head back to Grenada on Monday, God's willing. So that's the basketball tournament. The Spice and Hawks basketball schedule in London, UK, will be participating. And then we have the, as I mentioned, the OECS Track and Field Championships this weekend. Would have started around 2 o'clock today with the high jump. Yes, so we have a couple of field events taking place. That is over the next 2 days. Yeah, opening ceremony is scheduled for 4 o'clock this afternoon. And then, of course, we have the Barbados Grand Prix event also taking place, where we have Grenadian representation as well. There's, as indicated, World Cup football on, Morocco versus Canada. And, later on, there is the other game as well being played where, folks, I know that most folks have their preferred team, as I would say. And, some say Argentina, some say France. Who will it be? Whether it be Brazil, but later on today we have Paraguay versus France. That will be another interesting game. The Paraguay really play knit and grit, yeah. And then come tomorrow we have those very important games: Mexico and England. In the last game, in the earlier game, we have Brazil coming up against Norway. Yeah, that'll be another interesting game. Looking forward to that as well. Let's see. So that's about what is happening in terms. Oh, there is also, don't forget, there's also Wimbledon tennis, for those of you who follow tennis international. And then there's the British Grand Prix F1, that's Formula One. Will Lewis Hamilton, will Lewis Hamilton regain his British Formula One title? Retain, sorry, I should say. He has been doing pretty well when it comes to the British Formula One. He did pretty well in the time trials. Yeah. So there's Formula One, Wimbledon tennis on, World Cup football, as we say, track and field. Both days in St. Kitts, OECS. There's one day in Barbados, the Grand Prix. And there should be, I think there's Diamond League, if I'm not mistaken. There's Diamond League on Sunday as well. Let me just pull up the calendar and I will tell you. It's July 4th. So there's today, Miami. So later on, there's the Prefontaine Classic. Yeah. Prefontaine Classic today. I'm saying tomorrow. So there's the Prefontaine Classic later on. That's in Eugene, Oregon. So quite a bit on, folks. Prefontaine Classic on later on. We have that's in Eugene, Oregon. And we also have the let me see, the men's 400. We know Kirani is not in the men's 400, but what it's looking like for that 400 final. Who are the athletes that competed in that one? Chris Robinson, Ezekiel Nathaniel, Michael Norman. Oh, Michael is back on the track. Keil McRae, Sang is there from Botswana. Chris Bailey, USA. Jacori Patterson, Woodon Howard, Rai Benjamin. That's a good lineup of athletes competing in the men's 400 at the Prefontaine Classic. All right, folks, take care. All the best. Happy viewing for the World Cup. We certainly will head on to probably for the last 20 minutes for the game Morocco versus Canada, with Morocco leading 1-0. And then we have some very important games on. Well, we have another important game on later on, and then on Sunday, and then on Monday, and then on Tuesday as well. So then, happy viewing, folks. And then until then, do have yourself a pleasant weekend. Happy Independence again, folks. Happy Independence. Happy 4th of July, as we say. Thank you very much. Until then, do have yourself a pleasant weekend.